discretion is advised as we cover many an insane movie and numerous cult TV phenomenons. Now, are you ready to get jacked up? Are you with us? Then listen on.
The body's cold.
Somebody came after this guy with something pretty sharp.
The case is hot.
Getting a lot of heat in the sheriff's office.
And the crime scene is the key to the killing.
How do you talk to a dead body?
I let him talk to me, actually. In fact, he just spoke.
From producer Jerry Bruckheimer of Armageddon and Con Air comes the gritty new primetime series on CBS, CSI.
We solve crimes most labs render unsolvable.
Crime scene investigation.
I know that everybody's tired, but this is the time where we have to work together.
A team of forensic experts.
Two sharp women are better than one.
Something hard with a diamond insignia on the back. You find that, I bet you find your killer.
Bring crimes back to life.
This guy fell to his death wearing prescription eyeglasses. Jumpers take their glasses off.
I didn't push him off.
You can tell all that just by looking at a pair of eyeglasses? You have no idea.
In the city of Las Vegas.
Police officers, open up!
Between the high rollers and the low lifes.
The evidence leads us to believe that it was in fact a homicide.
And he was murdered.
Between the hidden clues.
I know this Chuck is guilty!
And the buried motives.
Concentrate on what cannot lie. The evidence.
I'll be damned. Lies the trail to the truth.
I think we may have our suicide note.
I just can't do it anymore.
This is his picture, but that's not my son's voice.
William Peterson. Marg Helgenberger. Gary Dordan. George Eads. Georgia Fox. Paul Guilfoyle.
All that stuff you rattled off, how'd you know about all that?
Your boyfriend told me.
CSI.
It's midnight in Las Vegas, and for crime scene investigator Gil Grissom, it's time to go to work.
We'll find him, Miss Harmon. There is always a clue.
To do his job, he has to be part scientist,
Concentrate on what cannot lie. The evidence.
part detective,
I have a warrant for your toenails.
Come again.
and a little out there.
Is there a grasshopper in here?
So what makes his team of investigators the best?
So many reasons.
William Peterson in CSI, Premier CBS, October 6th.
We are back with another special episode aimed at the one and only Jerry Bruckheimer franchise, CSI. And co-hosting with me are Robb, your Star Trek's better than mine, Antequera, and Ricardo, Paige. Ricardo Paige. And how did anyone get into this insane franchise that never seemed to end until it actually ended?
Well, I going into it when I had seen it going on, and I had never really been into it until they started showing the reruns of it on Spike TV when it used to be Spike TV.
Spike
And then
TV was a big proponent.
yeah, and they would show they were 5-10 episodes a day of
Yeah.
CSI, and
'Cause it
that's
was a
where I
Viacom
started catching
station.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where I started catching it, and then that's where I just intensely got hooked on it to the point where it's just I was just like binging it before binging was even a thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Indeed.
Yeah. So I definitely got hooked on it right there. It became one of my pastimes where I even was going out and buying DVDs of it because I just wanted to watch the episodes over and over and over again.
That's cool. No, I've never thought of doing the DVDs. I know there were some music videos or anything on it. It just seemed like it was on so many channels. It's like you might as well just tape them.
Yeah, but there were certain episodes where it was just I wanted to watch these specific ones over and over and over again.
Nice. So we begin with the very first show, Las Vegas, which ran from 2000 to 2015 for just that 15 seasons, starring William Peterson of To Live and Die in L.A. and Manhunter as Dr. Grissom, Marge Helgenberger from Species as Willows, Lawrence Fishburne from The Matrix as Langston, and Ted Danson from Cheers as Russell.
I love you, Ted Danson.
You know, I always forget Lawrence Fishburne was a cast member. Like, you know what I mean?
Don't worry. I'm like the only person who didn't have a problem with him, but we're gonna shit on him plenty on this, so get ready.
He wasn't bad. He wasn't bad at all.
I know. I just figured that we're gonna have some kind of hate, so I just formatting.
Nah. He was for like the 2 years he was on. He was decent. It was when they brought in Ted Danson where I kind of like, all right, I'm gonna head out.
What do I know? I just started watching his season and kind of started liking it, but
Ted Danson was cool to me too.
But don't get me wrong. I think the biggest issue is there's just always, even in, I hate to say this, even in Will Peterson years as Grissom, there's almost always at least one or two, I wouldn't say forgettable seasons, but there's like a season where it's just like, I remembered like maybe 3 episodes and that was it. I didn't remember anything else that happened that season.
Right, but that just goes what I'm saying with any long running show where it's like you're gonna have your seasons where it's like, yeah, there's a bit more
autopilot
than hits. Yeah,
I was just about to say that because 15 seasons, like that's a long, lengthy time span. So there's definitely a few seasons I might have forgot most of those episodes and just remember like maybe the end cliffhanger rolling into the next season.
Oh, right, we'll get to that. We will definitely lay out the work for the best cases and the worst cases. Oh man, there's plenty. So I for the longest time, I don't know why I was an introvert to this kind of stuff. I just thought it was just gratuitous and all the other shit. I was an uptight dumbass. I did not give this show a time of day until I was in college, and I said, you know what, check it out, and I really dug it. Season 1 had a very haunting score, and it was very much like, it reminded me very much of Profiler in NYPD Blue with how they do the whole, except with the forensics, you know, it's just the emphasis. Right. But I compare it to those other shows because back then when they were first on, they were pretty much doing the whole everyone's got to have a measuring contest. Everyone's got to be yelling at each other and breaking the rules without officially breaking them. You know, everyone's a super cop and a doctor and a forensic guy all at the same time.
But isn't that why sometimes we keep coming back? Because man, he's definitely might jump outside the lines to get this case solved, but it had to be done. It's the only way it was gonna get solved. I love it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this was around the same time that it was going back to back with Law and Order, and both those franchises both even had computer games that people would play, and it's like some of them would solve the game instantly. And you're like, yeah, I know who the bad guy is. I know where to look for clues.
I know CSI that had a computer game. I didn't know Law and Order had one.
It was kind of wild seeing Jerry Orbach yell at people, but this one, CSI in particular one, is like I had to even leave the room. It just kind of made me want to vomit. Someone was dissecting a dead alligator, and I'm like, Jesus.
Oh wow! I never got my hands on that one.
Yeah, I know. It sounds cool now, but back then I was just kind of horrified. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Who, you know, it was just a friend, you know, coming over, playing at a computer game at our house, you know, while we're having a party, you know, and you know the kids don't want to hang out with the adults, the kids want to hang out with other kids, and here's this other gal pal of Mare and I's playing this game on our PC game, and I'm just going over to the GameCube to just host and play Mario Brothers with everybody else. But I I can't blame him for trying. I think it was an interesting attempt, and it was how could they not? They were acknowledging all of technology. Everybody wanted to sponsor, you know, other TV shows on this. Everybody else wanted to, as a matter of fact, pretty much from that point on, if you came out with a new procedural or uh, medical emergency show, you were going to get compared to CSI. I think Crossing
100%.
Jordan. Crossing Jordan was like called ER meets CSI when it came out, and it's like, yeah, that's about right, more or less. Yeah, everyone wanted to sponsor the new computer game, the new Ford, the new cell phone, but not as much. But they did. I mean, you're gonna see logos for everything. You would see because they're filming in Vegas, so they would get plenty of other ads. Everybody liked it. They're like, hey, free advertising. I was seen on CSI.
I mean, realistically, the show also was like my first even glimpse of what Vegas could be like, and the show made it seem,
Really?
oh man, yeah. Like, I'm from New York, like I mean, I never really been anywhere besides maybe Virginia, Pennsylvania, Florida. You know what I mean? So thinking, oh my God, is it really going down like this at casinos? People just have random heart attacks.
Right. There's gunfights in the street. And as a result, many other shows that were in their final years, like I think Nash Bridges is a good example, started copying CSI, even though that wasn't their style to begin with. But all of a sudden, every show had to have a music video look and a flashback. Law and Order Criminal Intent later did it around season 6 just to get more ratings, which is a shame because the format's already good on that one. So it always took me out of it at first. I'm like, am I watching CSI? No, I'm watching Law and Order with CSI visuals. Okay.
I always get the feel that I'm watching CSI and like any law enforcement show I'm watching when someone exits stage left, drops a critical line, exits stage left.
It really has
the CSI vibe from that.
This is both made crime TV better and ruined it, if that makes sense. Everybody has to be clever. Well, no, I just mean, in just terms of the bastard childs that come out and want to be more clever than the other one is like, nah, dude, just be you.
Yeah.
Just be you, bro. I get that you suck to this show, but we like you in your own fashion, so it's cool. What would you say was the big defining arc? Because, I mean, we have so many people, going back to the breaking the rules, we have Crystal Method and Nine Inch Nails music playing every other episode. We have very cool montages. We have stuff that does not happen in real life, and yet we kind of accept it because it's built that kind of world. It's basically Batman if they were, or the A-Team if they were all forensic criminologists.
I kind of felt for myself when like the last 2 seasons with Grissom on it. Those 2 seasons, I felt like they were shifting a change towards, like, I don't want to say newer times, but maybe like a swing change of cast or just a vibe of the show. But that could just be me, you know what I mean?
I noticed that even before they did the whole, Grissom taking off. They would have so many recurring people, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Who did that person play? I didn't remember too many of them, and I'm not saying that to be mean or even to just compare a bunch of different people to a bunch of other unlike people. I mean, they went for so many people that they didn't just take it to the bank. They flat out started on this. Eric Stonestreet, before he played Cam on Modern Family, he was a struggling actor and he appears like for a few episodes and was like, that's pretty cool. I think comedic actor Michael Boatman from Spin City is on here for a while. I mainly remember Aisha Tyler and Katie Sackhoff, fresh off Battlestar Galactica, being on about 3 to 5 episodes, and that I thought they did pretty good. It's a shame they weren't able to continue with, they were all on, 3 other shows at the same time. So
the most distinctive one though, we got to go to what's his name, Leo Schreiber and his 4 episode arc.
That was great. Everyone hated that. I loved it.
That always bugged me out because like I always found that particular 4 episode arc of his to be like one of my favorite like instances of the show, and you know, the that whole dynamic that he had with Willows, you know, and it's bugged to find out that people actually hated it. It's like the hell, this shit is amazing.
You know, this was the rare example of pretty much everybody was watching this, even people who had no business watching this. You know, kids were watching this, teens were watching this, and it was funny. My folks were like, "Yeah, Cam, you can watch this. I'd rather your brother not watch it." And I was like, "I don't really want to watch this, guys. It's kind of creepy."
That's how I got into it. My mom, like straight and simple, we watch Law and Order, and she was like, "Yo, you check out CSI?" I'm like, "Nah," and I was like, "All right," and I checked it out, and I was like, "All right, this is definitely a show that I could
I
run
was
with because I'm big into law enforcement shows."
Yeah, if you watch it at pretty much
watching Law and Order.
yeah, it's fine.
I used to go over to his crib back in the day, and you be hard pressed not to find his mother watching Law and Order. She watched that shit religiously.
Religiously.
So I know
NYPD
exactly
Blue, all that stuff. So when
Mhm.
she gets a new cop crime show, just like I said, CSI, she was like, "You check it out," and I was like, "Nah, not yet." And I checked it out, and I was like, "Yo, you got a winner. It's a good show."
Yeah.
Yeah, Spike TV would often air reruns of DS9, Voyager, and Next Generation, and they often would follow it up with CSI Vegas. And I thought it was just a cool way of just kind of embracing the whole Paramount brand. I mean, they were going to go with as recent as you could come, as well as long term, because they had stopped, you know, doing MacGyver and A Team. You know, that was TV
Yeah.
land kind of thing. Still is in a way. That there, I think this show just showed how this is how you do style over substance. I mean,
Yeah.
style over substance already was kind of getting a bad precedent because you know people had seen stuff like Run Lola Run and The Matrix, and it was just that whole kind of thing because everyone was doing it. Everybody was remembering the bad over the good. You know, it was like, and no one seemed to remember is like, well, you're not getting it. Whatever I know someone from, you know, I'm going to know them from that. And that was definitely the case with the actors. Some people, we only know them just from this. And some of them, you know, we already kind of knew them because they had done plenty of other things. But in many ways, a lot of these performers made me end up checking out their other stuff. And it's like, you know what? You guys are chameleons. You've done so much other stuff, but this was like stage 2 of your careers in many ways.
You know, you're 100% right. Like George Odds, Nick Stokes.
Love
Like
Stokes.
I never knew who he was until I started watching the show, and then I went ahead and started watching MacGyver and show like after he left, and I enjoyed MacGyver. So I believe what you're saying right there is precedent. Like, you know, it'll get you to be like, oh, let me go check out some of their other stuff.
Absolutely. Georgia Fox, who played Sarah, she had already been one of the lead Secret Service agents on West Wing, and
she was also in Memento.
Yes, she plays
Memento. Wow.
Yeah.
She was the wife.
Yeah, the deceased wife.
Yeah.
And in a way, Memento almost feels like, you know, that had already been in the works for years, but this almost feels like that was like stage 1 of that's like CSI if you want a bigger mind, you know, rearrangement.
Quick question. I know we're recording. Do you mind if I catch a vape? I don't want to mess up your sound quality.
Yeah, okay. Please. Get it out of the way.
No, I mean we could talk about it. I just don't want like you be like, oh, what's that noise coming over? I don't want to mess your stuff up.
Yeah, no. Go ahead and take a quick smoke. It's all good.
Damn, son, what the fuck was that?
You're right.
So it sounded like someone was hitting a bong.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
I mean, I'm definitely 420 friendly.
Are you trying to create your own CSI crime scene here? Who vaped it first and shot this one guy with his vape? I'm sorry. I don't know if that's a thing or not, but it is now on this bullshit episode that happened to be sold to CSI.
I could see them making that work too. We got to get the trajectory of where the vape came from. They'll figure it out.
We'll return after these messages.
Hey, feeling down? Feeling low? Not enough podcasts about movies in your life? Why not try...
They must be destroyed on sight!
The new Podcast Cure-All, sure to get you right with the world and on a path to better living. We have exploitation, we have Italian horror, we have zombies, we have slashers, we have crime films, we have spaghetti westerns, we even have sci-fi and sex comedies. So take a dose of...
They must be destroyed on sight!
As needed, and let the hosts, Lee Russell, Daniel Harper, Paul Romali, and the odd guest host cure what ails you.
Warning, may cause atrophy, African consumption, black fever, bone shave, chin cough, colic, cramp colic, dropsy of the brain, elephantitis, grocer's itch, jaundice, mania, miasma, mortification, palsy, Pott's disease, rheumatism, scurvy, St. Anthony's fire, summer complaint, and worm fit in some people. Consult a physician before listening.
Hey, I heard you like movies.
I heard you like to hustle.
I heard you like podcasts.
Well, guess what?
There's a podcast for you out there called The Home Video Hustle.
Damn right.
Every Friday, we talk about whatever movie PJ picks out the bag. What does that mean? Every Wednesday on our YouTube page, I put a bunch of movies in a bag, and PJ picks one out at random. And then we just watch it. We talk about it for maybe like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever we feel like doing, wherever the conversation leads us.
But do we actually talk about the movie?
Most of the time. Tangents galore.
Yes.
So believe me, we may be a movie podcast, but it's not always about movies. We may talk about video games, music. Yeah, that's the big one, music. Sometimes we might get a little bit of politicalness in there.
Yes.
Sometimes we may just, we know what we like to do. We like to tell stories, PJ.
Yes.
I am the master storyteller of the podcast realm. Undefeated. So if you like to hear about movies, video games, whatever foolishness comes to our mind, the most random stuff you could think of, check out the Home Video Hustle. You can find us on the Stitchers, the Google Play, Apple Podcasts,
what else?
Podbean,
what else?
Podcast Addict,
goddamn,
all that. Ain't no reason you can't get your hustle on. We everywhere, worldwide, baby.
Hustle, motherfucking hustle.
Hey, we can't cuss in the promo, PJ. We gotta be family friendly. There may be podcasts out there that don't want his hair say all that good fun stuff.
Well, you.
Don't run the listeners away, PJ.
I'm sorry.
But this is going kind of long.
Yes.
So we'll end this and say, hey, check out the Home Video Hustle every Friday on all the various podcast outlets. Peace.
Peace.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. And while Witch didn't make it to the top of the world, he did make the Gangs of Hollywood podcast. So join the gang and enjoy a movie review podcast about movie gangs, gangsters, mobsters, and the mayhem they cause. You can find GOH Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at GOH Pod at www.gohpod.com, as well as your favorite podcast listening app. And remember, say hello to your little friend for me.
If you take two old punk rockers who are past their prime, put them in front of a movie screen and give them a podcast, what do you get? Cinema Punks. Cinepunks. It's the mixtape of movies.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds?
Nick
Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of her.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this movie.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little
popping
history
up.
doll popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was going to be a rough
How could you watch
one.
this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
We now continue with our program.
Pretty much it. I think this is the most balanced out of all of them in terms of giving extra time to pretty much A, B, and C. Yeah. Point A, you got to introduce like 2 subplots, and then point B, you got to be figuring out the crime scene development, and C's got to have your conclusion. You got to figure out the crime, and then you got to have a conclusion to that subplot problem. Oh, by the way, you're suspended. No, I just sold the crime.
But okay, so I don't know. Like you've been watching like as long as I've been watching. How many times though? Like you start watching, maybe by 30 minutes in, you're like, "Oh, I didn't know who did it."
Yeah,
I surprisingly often went along for the ride. I mean, I was so taken back by the neo-noir style, which Danny Cannon came up with, and he and the other guys were just perfect for this, because, I mean, it needed that noir look and feel, and it surprisingly never went the cliche 90s way of having the saxophone. It always kept it in the realm of just stylish. This is a party city.
You could kind of call it like MTV noir. Like
yes,
like stylistically, like where he added to the show, Cannon.
Right, and stuff that doesn't work in any movie, you kind of accept because it is the style. It is the 1 minute everybody, just fast cut edits and everything, and it does it very much like how Tony Scott and Michael Bay would do it, also in their Bruckheimer productions. But sometimes I was just even more fascinated by the creativity of the crime, even though the reveal wasn't too surprising. I was even more. I was even more distracted by kind of just all the other problems everyone had.
They did do that well, though.
That was I think the contributing factor why the show was so successful was just that every episode kind of starts after a while starts to blend in together. You know exactly where everything is headed, like you just said, you kind of start figuring out where it's like, I kind of got this figured out already. But
I give them A for effort.
No, absolutely. But what I'm saying is that it's what keeps you coming back is that you just grow so accustomed, kind of like almost like with these characters, where it's almost like it's less about where it's about the solving of the crime, but you also like when Grissom and Sarah started dating and stuff, and then it's like it became this whole like romance thing where it even got its own nickname.
I felt like they drugged that on, man.
Yes.
They did.
I'm sorry.
They
I was
definitely
like,
did.
come on, man. Let's keep this moving or do something with it.
Oh wait, GSR. So Grissom, Sarah, who's the R?
No, romance.
Grissom.
Oh, okay.
Grissom, Seidel
that's
romance.
what it was. Yeah, it was gruesome. But yeah, they do. The sexual tension is pretty much nonstop on these, and uh, I think it helps that everyone's already comfortable with one another because they've already worked with each other prior. Robert David Hall, who plays, Dr. Robbins, probably, the only actor who's been on it all the way through, along with Paul Griffel as the Chief Brass. They had already been in The Negotiator together, and, Griffel was no stranger to doing Crooked Cop, figuring out on LA Confidential, and the Law and Order Exile movie special. Will Peterson. It's kind of funny how Manhunter was a underappreciated movie, not only as a Hannibal adaptation, but as kind of an early CSI movie. And
Almost
but yet he very much, you kind of could tell he got the role because some producer remembered him from that and To Live and Die in LA. Yet he didn't bring the same persona. He just always been just kind of a professional working supporting dude. And Marge Helgenberger and Gary Durden had both previously worked together on this. Right there.
I'm sorry, I was packing cigarettes.
I thought you were doing.
I'm trying to be quiet. Like.
Oh. All right. I couldn't resist. Yeah. They were both in a movie called Keys Together. Not a good movie, but it. So it's interesting seeing everyone cross over and work with each other prior. There's a few other, I guess, variables of when there's cliches, it's a different kind of cliche. Because every other show I noticed looking back in the 90s and 2000s would always get way too comfortable with itself, get way too repetitive. And this pretty much was the style is going to be different, but we're going to be the right kind of repetitive. We are going to be visual footage for your eyes. Sorry, go ahead.
No, but that's going back to what Rob was alluding to. That it might get mundane, but the crime always was something else. Like to start the show, the murder would be someone wound up in the pool, but how he got into the pool was like because of something over here, and then it goes into the show. So like I feel they took the time to at least give you something like, whoa, like could someone really die this way? Oh wow, it's crazy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, to the point where like even that like the way they portrayed the murders in the show, it got to the point where it seemed like that show A Thousand Ways to Die was invented primarily to showcase that shit like that can happen.
True.
Yeah.
True. 100%.
I think you're onto it all. I mean, what else can be said? I mean, they eventually they realized this was going to be repetitive. So the best thing you could do is just, make the best kind of bullshit. It's like, okay, we didn't put any thought into this crime, but we're going to make the solving part really awesome. And it's pretty much
the murder incredibly gruesome.
Mm-hmm. And I mean,
because I remember there being a lot of complaints about that, like where it's like, I know a lot of people complain. I remember Kane Hodder complaining about that, where about the movies that he starred in being like hammered down by the MPAA. He's like, but is I've seen worse on CSI,
Yeah, I mean, he'd already played one of the dead bodies in Seven, which was another precursor to that and Silence of the Lambs definitely get referenced nonstop on this show, but they kind of do it in a different way where it's like it's not always a serial killer. It's like sometimes it's just like an accident or a depressed person, even a fugitive. I think they definitely did well by definitely. I mean, the blood is the main star of this show. Let's not kid ourselves.
Of course.
Not since Scorsese and Argento has blood been used to tell a story. This is like one of the few shows that made a morbid subject kind of socially acceptable. I mean, my grandmother was an old school mystery gal, and she got into this show no problem. it wasn't easy at first, but she got into it, and it's kind of interesting how it broke that gap. It was like every adult was watching this, even if they didn't want to watch it, they had it on. It just was on at every other interval. Every CVS crime show had to basically format this style.
I mean, I love the offspring that CSI like created. CSI Miami, that was my jam. Like, and they also used a really good song in their opening credit. That would get in your head, even if you walked past. My job, the TV's on all day. I work with random people. I'm in and out of rooms, but if that's on and I hear the song, I'm automatically singing that song all day and thinking of CSI.
Oh dear, it'd be interesting to do a survey on how many people know the Who from their parents being good parents and introducing their kids to that, and how many of them are just like, oh, I just watch CSI all day. So of course,
right? How many people don't even know who the Who is, but they know the song?
So because of CSI, yo.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Or you just like who the Who is that? Who's the Who? And all you got to just do is go, yeah, like okay, now I know.
You're talking about Doctor Who, aren't you, Rob? I'm just kidding. Who? Do a Pacino here. Who? God, Criminal Minds already wouldn't exist without Law and Order: Criminal Intent, but it definitely wouldn't have existed without the gore factor of CSI. NCIS basically was like, hey, we're JAG, but we're gonna have some office type humor, some monk type weirdness, and we're gonna have some CSI.
Like NCIS and CSI, like CSI got 15 years, NCIS got 17 seasons. 17 seasons. Like, they're OGs in the game. Like, I don't even understand how NCIS is still going on, and that's like one of my shows as well. And it's because they do like them.
It's that. I think it's also just that there's humor on there, and it's aimed at the military crime angle. And so there's a lot of veterans watching it. It's like, Agent Gibbs, go Agent Gibbs.
Mark Harmon, man, come on, everyone loves Mark Harmon.
The coolest actor who ever lived.
That dude invented Viagra. Let's be honest.
and that's true. And just remember this: you'll never see a wheelchair under Mark Harmon.
Nope.
Oh my God. When we get to that on another episode, we are gonna
that's gonna be a good one.
That will be good. So when this spawned also Crossing Jordan, and then it also kind of spawned Las Vegas, if you think about it. That was NBC's answer to CSI. It's like, okay, you want a Vegas show? We'll bring it to you. But we're funny. What's the other one? There was a few other kind of counterterrorism shows that kind of took the CSI angle. You had the
computer one, CSI Computer, not Cyber. CSI Cyber. I enjoyed that, and they got two seasons.
I've actually been meaning to watch it, and I'll definitely let you elaborate on that more as we go through this saga. The movie The Kingdom, starring Jennifer Garner, Fox, is
good movie.
And it's more often than not is often called 24 Meets the Kingdom, and it's like I always thought it was Die Hard in Saudi Arabia. A lot of critics would call it Syriana for Dummies, but they are not mistaken. It's like it pretty much is a CSI movie with a lot of heat type shootouts and
all CSI digging in the mud to get the parts for the truck was over here that blew up. 100%.
Yeah, and it is kind of a shame that every critic who had to compare just couldn't help but find a comparison to CSI pretty much always used it in kind of a negative vein. They're like, oh, it doesn't really separate itself from an episode of this or that. And it's like, well, and sometimes that's all we want is just an hour or 90 minutes of what would otherwise be a procedural episode, but it happened to, again, be stylish and have bigger names and bigger writers. This made it easy to compete and hard to stand out. So I would say it definitely made us lazier. It also made it cooler. And a lot of cops are, according to Wikipedia, definitely hate this show because it misrepresents them. And all I can say is, at least to be fair, it did make some people, I don't know if they're sick fucks or just they work at a funeral home, but it made them want to actually be detectives or mess around in the morgue.
When I was younger, I went to my high school because they had a forensic science program. That's why I went to my high school because I was like, oh word, but I don't think like they show cops like they show. All right, see, I feel like the CSI team do a little bit more than what they're supposed to be doing, like running out there, kicking in doors, busting shots at people. Like,
That's
come
the
on
issue. That's definitely the issue that they had, where it's like, how many people signed up for forensics thinking that we're gonna be like CSA, kicking in doors and shit. It's like, no, you just mop up the blood, motherfucker.
Yeah, take your photos, measure, tape measures, get your yourself.
So we're not gonna bust the bad guys? No, like you just dust for prints, you know what I'm saying? And they're like, oh, and it's just go ahead.
And it's funny how they mix that in with someone's gonna bust in a door, and every 2 seasons there's gonna be someone get shot and either killed or injured, or there's gonna be a kidnapping of a main character. Will they survive? Or will they have to be unburied, and then you mix that in with the sexual tension. And I'd like to say it was repetitive or running out of ideas. I wouldn't say they were running out of ideas so much as it became the trope. Someone had to fire the trope every few seasons, and it had to be kind of a selling point. And it's like, what better way to make people tune in? Because dead bodies, you can only make dead bodies interesting for so long. So
isn't that like the standard though to all these like CSIs, NCIS, criminal minds?
I was just
type shows. The main characters, the core, either get kidnapped, shot, mama died, like always something crazy, because that's how they keep you gassed up. Now every now and then they do kill main characters, and it is like crazy. Our main characters leave, like when DiNozzo left NCIS. I've been heartbroken forever.
Oh yeah, it is abnormal. I just noticed it. They kind of do it more stylishly.
Yeah,
like
they're in Vegas,
and we'll get to it later. There's one of these spinoffs that drives me up the wall in it, and you'll hear it. This pretty much did make it be to where it's like we got to be a #1 show, and we got to have a bunch of spinoffs, and we are forever immortalized in pop culture. There's no way no one isn't gonna when you bring up mystery shows, someone's gonna bring up Sherlock Holmes, someone else is gonna bring up Murder, She Wrote or Columbo, someone else will bring up fiction that has yet to be justified as an adaptation, like Hardy Boys or Nancy Drew, and then someone eventually is going to get to CSI.
Of course.
Just because they're magicians. They know how to solve a crime within X amount of time. A lot of people say, oh, they solve it within 24 hours. I can't recall a single episode that was solved within 24 episodes because they do change their wardrobe a lot. Obviously they're still sexy.
Time of day. Like you're 100% right on
that. They didn't care, I don't think, but at the same time, I mean, everyone also has. This is one of those shows that is so full of shit, and yet I somehow accept it because it believes in itself. I know. I that's how I have to phrase it, because I mean, you will have people who will get in stupid fights, and they're just magically better, and the next episode, you don't know the time span. Almost every fight happens in an office, and I'm like, damn, if office politics were this awesome, I need an office like that. Damn,
I mean,
everybody's doing
job.
Yeah. They pretty much have I wouldn't say Law and Order does a better job, in my opinion, of having the format be the star.
Yeah.
This is pretty much reliant on the mystery and the gore, kind of painting a portrait, no pun intended, and then it very much is based on how twisted they can be and whether they can get away with murder, no pun intended.
And that's because Law and Order is based on like I guess reality or more reality based.
Yeah, its satire is a lot of stuff, and I mean the fact that it's a 3-part thing, lawyer, detective, and then final outcome. You know, it's just and sometimes not even any of that. Whenever there's lawyers on this show, it's often very stylish, and the lawyers are just as witty as the detectives, where they're just like,
yeah.
I mean, Law and Order always kind of did it where everybody's just giving a closing argument. It's like, here, if you're on CSI and if you're a lawyer or a doctor or a suspect, you're not so much being a douche. You're mainly being witty. Everybody in this world is witty as fuck, and it's just like, or making an appropriate
and that's
joke.
like another thing. If you caught me because you're a CSI technician, who are you? How are you questioning me? Like, why am I talking to you?
Yeah, it's something else. Every crime show fell victim to eventually having guest stars, sometimes even famous people playing. You know, they'd have a famous athlete play. You guessed it, an athlete.
The bad, yeah.
So, who would you say, fellow critics, who was the best and who was the worst guest star on this entire franchise? I'll start you off. I'll give you some pointers. I really like the one episode. This is in Ted Danson era, where you have a bunch of suspects, and you have not only Robert Davi in a 2-episode role, but also Craig Schaefer and what's his name? I just had it in my mind. John Delancey, best known as Q on Star Trek. It's a very twisted fucking episode, and I will also say Justin Bieber is the best guest star for obvious reasons.
Wow, I totally forgot the Biebs was even on.
He became immortalized as a GIF file, getting shut the hell up, and it's like, thank you.
Not only that, but March Hullenberg is a little shit.
Oh, sorry. Say again.
That March Hullenberger went on record saying that he was a little shit during his guest stint on the show. So that coupled with him getting shot to shit, RoboCop style, made for a memorable appearance.
Yeah, and it's just so outrageous because it's like you would never expect, you know, unless he had a bomb or something, just this entire SWAT team to just fucking pop a kid full of lead. Is like, Jesus. And Stokes just flat out just opens fire. He does not hesitate, because it's like he had 3 episodes ago, this character played by the Beeb had been established. And I would like to say I think this does style over substance better than even the Fast and Furious franchise. It's just because I mean the gore and the crimes and the outrageous stupid puns are just, there's 3 different stars to it. So that, and it's not relying on having a bunch of bald guys driving cars. It's all, in fact, every once in a while it has outrageous just car chases, to where it's like, wow, that was a that wasn't just any chase scene. That was a Jerry Bruckheimer scene.
Right.
I feel like that show did their homework. Like, also, like, all right, so what do we have to put on screen to keep people coming back? Yeah, it's probably going to be repetitive, and we're going to do this. and we're gonna make this flashy. And they had the script, like, you know what I mean?
That and Bruckheimer just never recovered. He didn't know he knew what to do with it. He'd already been getting his ass, handed to him on a platter by Joel Silver and Scott Rudin. And once he had this, he had some skin in the game. I mean, he had this on the same year as Survivor. So to literally take over one giant network known as CBS and then pit that with, milking the Pirates of the Caribbean and every other Johnny Depp movie for all it's worth, and then having this to fall back on. I mean, there's a reason he's a millionaire. Like we mentioned in our pilot episode of this podcast, is like and I see his name pop up on other shows, and it's like Lucifer. It's a superhero show, but you take it away, it's a CSI show. There's just so much emphasis on all the other, crime mayhem and just outrageousnly. It's like, jeez, okay. And they're using the exact same cinematographers and producers, so it's like, yeah, it's copy and paste for him. Every show has to have these people. These people are set for life. He will always call their phone. Moving on, from 2002 to 2012, for 10 seasons, the first spinoff, CSI Miami, ran.
I'm Horatio Caine, head of CSI Miami.
He goes by his instincts.
I'm Megan Donner, DNA specialist from the Miami Crime Lab.
She follows the evidence.
What in the heck are those?
Something she hit?
Or something that hit her?
They're partners.
She's gonna kill herself. Maybe he's trying to stop her.
Or maybe it was the other way around.
But that doesn't mean they always see eye to eye.
A woman was murdered.
That's a hunch talking. Where's the evidence?
David Caruso, Kim Delaney, CSI Miami. Premieres CBS next Monday.
Then, CSI Miami is on a special night, and the evidence is clear. Missing the People's Choice nominee for favorite new drama would be a crime. CSI Miami on a special night. CBS Friday.
When there's a full moon over Miami, the strangest things happen.
He called 911.
In other words, our victim called in his own murder.
And for CSI, it's gonna be a night they'll never forget.
Every warm body was out, and we're still outnumbered by the cold ones.
It's a hell of a way to go.
What did you do to deserve this, mijo?
Someone is making a statement.
CSI Miami, a new episode, CBS tonight.
And it has been compared to everything from TJ Hooker to Miami Vice to Walker, Texas Ranger. How would you describe the show, Rob? Before we get to Ricardo's wonderful, I just want to toss the negative out, because this is where the franchise becomes infamous, and we're at the same time it becomes more popular. This is the kicker. It becomes two things all at once: popular and infamous.
It's when you were talking about the shows becoming repetitive and almost become a bastardized version of themselves. Just like you could definitely say you're talking about CSI Miami. 100%. Miami is just like it's just it hits us like it's trying like season one, and then like it hits a point where it's just like, all right, we know exactly what people are turning in for, and we're going to do that every single episode. We're going to do the same shit every single episode. And, and the fact that is just, people just slapped it up. Even my mother was an avid watcher. Like, it's just sort of like, I remember just sitting there watching it with her, like maybe like 5 minutes of the episode, and just be like, hey, you watch this shit all the time.
Yeah. Oh, God.
And, I mean,
yeah, I for the longest time, I associated the whole franchise with that, so I did not want to watch a minute of it. Now, ironically, I thought Caruso was a good actor, because, I've seen him in movies like Jade and Proof of Life.
He is.
And
that's what kept him around.
Even the first Rambo, he's one of the crooked cops beating him up, so it's we already had it. But
no,
yeah,
he's actually the nice one. Technically, he's the nice one of the asshole cops.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
He was the glue to that show. That's
I
why
like how
people
you
kept
almost said
coming
it.
on.
I like how you almost said it like how he says, "We got some glue to sell." So
Yo,
yeah,
he was. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, well, no, go ahead. I was just
No,
gonna
I'm
bullshit.
just see. Okay, so I was a fan, and I just say it as like it was him. He was the glue. People remember him from NYPD Blue and then bouncing. And I felt like he got on that show, and it was definitely repetitive. But he was like the king of the one-liners, exit, sunglasses. Like he kept you coming around. Horatio Caine, man.
He definitely the only person I can think that made glasses cool before him was either Richard Belzer, the comedian, as John Munch on Law and Order, or Kiefer Sutherland as Jack Bauer on 24, or just even some of these other guys who commonly, I mean, you could say Don Johnson. That's fair, and maybe Richard Dean Anderson to an extent. There was plenty of other TV icons who had to wear glasses in every scene. But yeah, he kind of reinvented it. Is like he would just, it was his style. He'd take them on, take them off. You really, honestly don't notice him in the episode. It's just for whatever reason, people weren't over whoever Caruso used to be. You know how he was kind of a failed film actor returning to TV, and he'd already done another show called Michael Hayes and a few other TV movies, which I highly recommend. But yeah, you can't find Michael Hayes anywhere on YouTube. Drives me insane. I'm like, I'd like to actually watch the show. But yeah, this was pretty much him returning to play Super Cop. I would say it pretty much after a while becomes the Punisher TV show. Before there was a Punisher show, because he goes to war with fucking everybody. Serial killers,
everybody.
He has all these brother-in-laws who he thinks may or may not be evil, and you got a bunch of shit ton of Law and Order actors on that. It's like, Jesus, is there anybody who isn't on all the crime shows? And he pretty much goes to war with every other cartel person or every other bad guy of the week. Surprisingly,
all alone with his sunglasses in his hand.
With his hands, and every once in a while he even gets in a knife fight and takes out his sniper.
Sunglasses.
I was fortunate enough to meet Robert Lasardo, the guy who played like Julio or whoever, who plays the bastard who kills his fiance. And ironically, was even in a similar 2-part role on NYPD Blue, being interrogated by him years ago. So he had no problem with him when I asked him about it. But when I asked Lasardo, I was like, well, what are you more recognized for, this or Nip Tuck? He's like, I would have thought that the latter would have been more popular, especially in the Italian scene. But more often when I travel the country, I see Miami playing on a Japanese TV screen in a cafe. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. So it was pretty much bona fide, just like anything that starred Don Johnson or David Hasselhoff. It was instant syndication value. It was going to be played anywhere, everywhere, all the time. The guest stars on this aren't really any stunt casting, surprisingly, which is weird because
I don't think they needed it by that.
They didn't need it. It was already outrageous and attention grabbing, and had Michael Bay explosions. So I mean,
that was the one that like it was so purely on, they had you hook, line, and sinker with not just the premise but with the actors. Like for instance, who was his character's right hand man, Delco?
Yeah. Delco,
I remember
for the longest time got mixed up with it'll come to me. Sorry, I'm scrolling back up to the list. I got him mixed up with Greg on the original show because they just had that similar look, and they kind of the same position, just the geeky guy who looks kind of normal in the lab, and that's where he stays.
Like I remember my mother, like I said, she was hooked on the show, and the actor, he did some movie with 50 Cent and I think Luke Goss, and it was like terrible, and like she was like bummed, and I'm like, so why are you watching it? And my father was like, because the fucking dude from CSI Miami's on the shit. She said, I thought it was going to be good because I saw Delco.
Yeah. I pretty much became aware of actor Adam Rodriguez from this show, and I never had an issue with his character, although you could easily play a drinking game with how many times Horatio says, Eric, you know. He's a good actor. He's now on Criminal Minds, but I mean, he was on every other show for a while, and I mean, hell, he got to be in Magic Mike, so he made bank. This was a good comeback for Condi Alexander, I would say.
Yeah.
She was already been kind of the go-to for being in a bunch of hood movies, and after she was on, you know, ER and News Radio and every other, you know, David Simon HBO crime show, to be on this, really gave it a big voice, you know, gave it a black voice, and I would like to say the women on this aren't sexualized. I mean, they're beautiful, but they're not. Other than Sophia Milos, they're not, you know, eye candy like.
They're not like out there like, oh, look at these, hello boys.
Yeah,
you know, not typical like Michael Bay kind of, you know.
Which is so weird because there's so many Michael Bay moments, and yet it does. It's because it's part of Bruckheimer. It has the restraint. It's like, hey, we got female here. I see, man. Caruso is tapping the Latina chicks, because I mean there are so many gals who have a crush on this dude, and he was apparently in a relationship with a lot of famous
Horatio Caine, man.
Yeah, and it pretty much life imitates art. I mean, he's about to be engaged to this one beautiful criminal justice Latina gal, and she gets gunned down, and it's just like, oh, okay. Well, there's that.
Yeah,
that made it good though. The next season when he went crazy and like, gotta get the cocktail.
I will say, despite having an ego, it doesn't really distract me in the way that other egos have distracted me. He's just like, okay, well, so he's gonna do his shtick. He's like Bill Shatner, but without the paused dramatic monologues.
You know why? Because his ego is in a weird way. It was good for the show, just like the way Shatner's was for Star Trek. You know, it's just like he's an asshole, but his assholism works for the you know, with the show as it goes along. You know,
well, warranted. And he was kind of a professional asshole in that he just wanted to do a good job and just do enough takes, but he wasn't, you know, making life hell in terms of, you know, I'm gonna not come out of my trailer, you know, that kind of shit. One critique was NYPD Blue co-star, well, she rarely shared any scenes with him on that show. Kim Delaney was here as Megan in the first season, and she was fired because the producers just found that she and Caruso just didn't have any charisma, despite having partially worked together on another famous show. So, I would say what was most wasted was Speedle, played by underrated actor Rory Cochrane. I mean, he's used, but he's kind of overshadowed by everybody. But then he keeps appearing in flashbacks, so I'm like, oh well, he apparently is a big deal.
I will agree to that. Rory was kind of just like, and that's a shame too, because he's a damn fine actor.
Yeah, I mean, it got him offers. No, don't get me wrong. Omar Benson Miller, I would say, is not always well utilized on this show, but clearly he got more offers by being on this.
I didn't know of him until the show, and honestly, though, like I've tried to check out a few things that he's done, and like nothing's really like stood out where I'm like, oh man, yeah, that guy.
Who? Rory Cochrane?
No. Omar Benson.
They don't give him much to do either, really, except just run away from, you know, some beast or serial killer of the week and spout out stuff that, oh, thank you, genius. No shit, Sherlock. I would have never guessed that. I can't blame him. I mean, ultimately, everybody's got to do something, and everybody's just blessed to be part of one big family. So I don't really ever get any there hasn't really ever in the history of anyone having a issue with this show, unlike other crime shows, save for George Eads having issues with the producers. And that's why they worked in his whole, you're suspended on the original show, because you're like, no, really, we want you to take a walk. Just, you'll be back in 2 episodes, but seriously, take a fucking walk.
Well, Eads always had issues going to the way back when they fired him and Georgia Fox. So he always had issues behind the scenes like that. So
yeah,
it wasn't surprising when it finally came to a head, and he was like, fuck this.
Yeah, this predates Criminal Minds. Way before Thomas Gibson was tripping asshole producer.
No, man, leave
Right,
alone.
When that news got announced, I was like, pretty embarrassing to be arrested on your own show.
Yeah. Yeah. And then to let him go, like, oh, he's off with his son. I was like, all right, I guess.
Don't you hate when you do shit like that? Like, the behind the scenes thing has taken place
on screen. Yeah.
Like, yeah, they come out with some bullshit way to like, oh, they've gone away, and like, he's visiting his sick mother or some stupid shit.
And I know this ain't that talk, but I will say they did, like, they tried to fill some people in and it wasn't working. But what they got going on now, I can rock with. Their cast lineup, I think it's good.
I think CSI got too comfortable with this cast and started writing to him. And I agree. I think Criminal Minds, don't get me wrong, there's still people I know who refuse to watch any season with, you have the whole Patinkin versus Mantegna camp there, but you still have most people who will watch it anyway just because it's like Law and Order. They just like or even SVU. They like the gory crime reveal, psychological interrogation, and they like the 24 style action, FBI raids. And Miami kind of set the bar where you got to have something intense. Whether you buy it or not, it's a whole other story. I knew people who were from Florida, and they would always know, I can tell it's filmed in LA because they don't have yellow crosswalks in Florida or something like that. And that's fair enough. I mean, I would see a bunch of stuff and was like, I would always see the helicopter skyscrapers. I'm like, I wonder how much of this is actually filmed anywhere. And I will say, how dare I compare this to The Wire? I swear it's not because of the producer, director, Joe Chappelle working on both. If you watch a clip of this or even The Wire, you will think, what the fuck did I just watch? If you actually sit down and watch some episodes beginning to end back to back, you get a feel for where the narrative structure is going. And in a way, you kind of look forward to the body count.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm even going there. I think this handles its body count better than Walker, Texas Ranger. Because Walker, Texas Ranger, I can't name you, just like, oh, Jesus, not the slow motion again. Just... and just how the bad guys, their problems literally do not make any sense at all. They're just evil because, Chuck Norris told them to be evil. And
it's weird though. It's weird though with Walker Texas Ranger because it's like they're like, by definition alone, they're both like, you could say, silly. CSI and Walker Texas, they're silly ass shows, but it's like you could kind of laugh at Walker Texas Ranger as how cheesy it is, but like it's almost like taboo to laugh at how cheesy CSI Miami is.
Yeah, because it's a spinoff, and it's everyone's so sexy, and just
right. It's
taking
like
it serious.
Everybody takes it so damn seriously, and it's like this is cheesy as hell, you know what I'm saying?
Cheesy.
But like Walker Texas Ranger is the joke show.
I mean, the A-Team kind of set the cheese bar, and even MacGyver, and everyone kind of takes MacGyver serious.
Though.
Yeah, MacGyver's good, and A-Team's kind of just like, turn your brain off. Why would you expect,
No, nobody knows how to shoot in those shows, so it's fine. But
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, if you even want to go into Aaron spelling mode, yeah, we can bring up T.J. Hooker again, but we could also bring up Dynasty, which other people would watch, and other Remington still. But yeah, it's like I kind of feel like an asshole to even laugh at CSI. I never felt the nerve to laugh at it, except when there were just all the montage videos of just the putting on the glasses and all the bad puns.
Yo, and that shit, dude, like I watched one that's like 10 minutes long of just nothing but
Yeah.
him saying one-liners and putting on glasses, and it's just like,
yo, that's what he did. Like, and it's like you said earlier how Captain Kirk was to the Enterprise. Like he, like I felt like almost tried not like the same type of monologue, but like slow cadence talking. We're gonna have to go and then check this room and then bounce. Like, what's going on here? Like, relax. Talk to me like a normal person. I'm right here in front of you.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is everybody who typically would talk unusual or a certain way in a certain show, everybody talks weird on this show. And surprisingly, I don't find it as weird as, I don't know, the one guy who was playing a mentally challenged person on that last season of 6 Feet Under, and everybody started making fun of it because it was unintentionally amusing. And then there's yeah, I know, pretty fucked up. And then I don't know, it's not as frantic as 24, where everybody's gonna say they're the same line every episode.
Yeah,
because clearly they're having a long day, and that's another batch.
It's 24 hours.
Well, yeah, that's another batshit crazy show. I mean, there's plenty of people
so
who
good,
watch
though.
it. Oh, I love it too, but it is funny how if you did a survey of how many people laugh at the right times and at the wrong times, I kind of do a bit of both, because that's just how I am. I watch all kinds of action movies, and there's definitely just some over the top bullshit that wouldn't work elsewhere that kind of works for that. So
yep,
this is definitely at 2001, 2002. We are at the peak of steroid induced TV. I mean, all the CSIs are kind of steroid induced in terms of their editing. People who haven't been good in other things work somehow because, hey, quickly done, close up, and oh, I just shot the guy. Bye, bad actor.
Yeah. Quick cutaways. Next room. Like, yeah.
Yeah. This is an unusual role also for Rex Lynn playing Frank. They couldn't get any other bald guy like Mike Chiklis, so I mean,
right.
I liked him in it though. I thought he made it work.
He was kind of type for him though.
Yeah, no.
He's used to playing like a douchebag in movies.
Yeah, then this is like the first time he's playing nice guy cop, and he
Right.
always gets bruised up, and he's kind of the Paul Gwiffel's captain of the original show, but he kind of is the unofficial partner. He's just always out in the field and just rescues the woman while Eric and Horatio get in a fight or gunfight with someone. I will say, for the longest time, I thought Emily Proctor was not a good actress. And then I saw other episodes where she actually was good on the show, but, just seeing clips, you would think, okay, she's kind of an over, blown pretty face. And it's like, no, see her turn as the one person on the Republican staff member on the West Wing and the few other movies she's done. It's like, no, she's not bad. She's just oddly edited on this show. It just
I dug her little southern accent though.
Well, that's the thing. She has that in everything she does. Believe it or not, that's how she is on West Wing. So it's like, but you don't know it, until you know a certain actor. So it is kind of annoying to kind of know the history of someone. And yeah, I will say there's a lot of unintentionally funny stuff on this, yet it takes it so serious to where it's like, you either buy it or you don't buy it at all, and you just watch it because it's all style over substance at the end. It's definitely a result of the Star Trek Aaron Spelling gene. So I will say,
forgot Chris Pine was on this.
Wait, oh, that's right. and so was Channing Tatum, and so being arrested. That's a hysterical episode. Uh, surprisingly, without this, many other shows would not exist. And I hate to act like, do the whole Tarantino thing where I gotta give more credit to something than it's actually due. But I mean, really, Burn Notice would not exist without this damn show.
True.
Another show set in Miami, although I think they actually filmed it there, but I could be wrong. And it's so weird how so many other shows make referencing another show their priority, like Supernatural dedicated endless time to them walking around and talking exactly like every person on this fucking show. So it's just like, okay, well, I accept its place in pop culture. I mean, if you can marathon it, go for it. You won't lose any sleep. You might even like some of the guest stars. If not, you're not really missing anything, I guess, but you kind of are, if that makes sense. Because it's batshit crazy. I will say, and feel free to counter on me.
Supernatural?
Well, no. Feel free. No. Sorry, I'm talking about CSI Miami.
Oh.
Feel free to counter with me on this. I think NCIS Los Angeles does this worse.
You lost me. What are we doing worse? Because I do watch me some NCIS.
Well, no, I watch it, but I especially can't take that one serious. I mean, the acting.
Okay, yeah. You know what? I was just actually telling one of my friends that, like, if I worked at this location, it would be such a hazardous and shittiest place to work. You're always getting shot at. Shit is always exploding. Like, your boss is going, like, there's always something going on. It's the worst. But
it does it better.
I rocks with it.
Well, that's the thing. I would watch it just because there'd be an outrageous shootout, and I thought Chris O'Donnell and LL Cool J were a cool buddy cop duo. They were Miami Vice.
Yeah,
and then they have a lot of writers from 24, so of course there's always an outrageous terrorism plot of the week or Dog Day Afternoon style standoff, and then I just compare it to CSI Miami because it's like there's a lot of, well, unlike CSI Miami, there's so much questionable acting on the Los Angeles of NCIS. Like they had every 80s icon from Christopher Lambert to even 90s heartthrobs like Claire Furlani, and they were very questionable performances. I was just like,
Well, see, so all right, I attribute both these shows, and I kind of maybe am coming to truth for myself. Sometimes there's also bias. Like, I'm a fan of CSI, so I give CSI Miami a little bit of a pass and accept more of the bullshit because I'm already a fan. Same thing with NCIS Los Angeles. I'm a fan of the original NCIS, so I can give Los Angeles a pass because I'm already involved.
I would say because basically CSI Miami is a whole different shitstorm, yet it buys its shitstorm, so because it's consistent with its bullshit, I give it points for that, and that leads to the entertainment. Now, with the NCIS LA, it's just like they have all these bizarre editing styles that do not match up. Like, there will be someone doing a GoPro type shot on a car chase, and it's just so awkwardly inserted. It's just like the Walker Texas Ranger slow motion case. It's just like, what is going on here? And there's an interesting mystery at the core of it. But then you got to get to all the other just unfunny humor and sexual attention. And it's like, no, fuck you, NCIS LA. Yeah, I came here for the air raid, not for this blonde Caucasian dude just trying to get him.
It's the same thing with New Orleans. You know, they trying to hit another outlet, and it's not as overblown, but
New Orleans is kind of a slow burn, and I think it just helped that they did enough crossovers. Mark Harmon's involved with both shows, so it's like, here's a show I will acknowledge as being part of our. Because that's the other thing too, is like I would see people who would watch NCIS LA and they found the original show boring. I know, sacrilege, and they're just like, I know, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I can understand if you find certain people annoying, like you don't like Tony, you don't like what's her name, Abby. Yeah, I'm not an Abby fan, but I understand her purpose. She has a point in the whole premise of the show. She's the Chloe of the show.
Yeah.
She's the what's her name on Criminal Minds, the blonde hacker gal.
Penelope.
Yeah.
Garcia.
So there you go. She's the Cassidy on Arrow. So she is she serves a purpose, and until it becomes apparent that the actress does not get along with anyone and they're filming her in separate rooms. So what I'm getting back to is, if there's a problem on Miami, you really don't hear about it unless it's a third person, party. And it pretty much is, join us for a wild, crazy time. This is hippie CSIville, I guess you could say, for lack of a better word. This is more music video than the original show got. It's crazy and distorted, and it's some kind of shit sandwich, but it's also kind of a tasty milkshake, and it's also a what the fuck at times. So it's a lot of things cranking around. It is convoluted, but it's kind of part of it, but it's kind of not. It's a contrarian show. It could have only been done back when it was done, because there's so many other shows that do that, especially in CSLA, and I don't know why that one got 10 seasons and so many other shows only got 3 seasons. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. Despite there being infamous moments on Miami, I can name a lot of infamous moments on New York, and we'll get to that.
The drama of CSI New York is on TNT.
Everybody get down!
From executive producer Jerry Bruckheimer.
You're under arrest. Let me see your hands.
See CSI New York, back-to-back episodes tomorrow at 7, only on TNT.
In CSI New York, follows Detective Mac Taylor, a survivor of 9/11. His wife is mentioned, never seen, but always mentioned as having died on there. So he gets along with his buddies Stella and Danny, and this show is pretty much Die Hard with a Vengeance every week. I mean, there is it's in a way slightly more classy, but there's also lots of dog shit that you have to pile through before you get to the good stuff.
It's New York,
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, it's the second spinoff, so it always already had that working against it. But my biggest issue with this is I like a lot of the crimes. I like how they're thought out. I like the openings, and I never like the payoff. I never like how a single mystery is wrapped up. It is always a fuck you to the viewer, and it only gets away with it because I like everything else.
Right.
You're right there.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
You're not watching porn again, are you? Okay, good.
No.
Okay. I would say the biggest issue. I'll give you an example. Round had to be season 3 or 4. Let me look it up. I think the show's pretty solid all the way until you end on a very promising cliffhanger in season 5, only to get a total crappy resolution in the premiere of season 6, and it never quite recovers from that. It's just the kind of show where it runs with a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of people who know how to do a lot of good things, and wrapping it up is just not one of them. It's just they always struggle on it for me. What's your take?
I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was. Like, I felt like it had shortcomings of a third show in like a line of shows. So now the ideas are probably getting a little bit more lazier, in my opinion. Like, I'm looking through the list and I'm seeing the people that are on it, but I know a lot of these people also from other stuff, like Vanessa Ferlito. I don't think I said her name right.
Yeah,
but
Vanessa Ferlito. Yes. Oh.
She's in NCIS New Orleans. And I like her on that show. You know what I mean?
I already knew her from Spider-Man 2 and oh come on,
yeah.
you don't remember her on
I've known her from a lot of other stuff, but just saying,
Shadow
like,
Boxer,
on that show, like.
Oh, well, remember she's also on 24. Remember?
Yeah, 24. That was this whole other beast.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know. I've just noticed.
I love it.
She literally had to leave that show. That's why they killed off her character on that show, just so she could be on CSI New York, and only to be killed off on this one as well. So it's just like she can't win. She is my favorite character in this show, and it sucks because her character is not fleshed out that much until she gets her comeuppance as trying to break the law and frame this one stalker of one of her girlfriends.
Oh yeah.
And then they bring her back and they're like, "Oh, we found a body. Oh, and it's Aiden. No."
Dun dun dun.
And I'd say, yeah. And in season 2, there's one particular. This show was already being referenced to me during college because there was an episode where basically they solved the crime by looking at a reflection from someone's eyeglasses, or better yet, in someone's eye or some bullshit, and it was found through a security camera at like a market. It's like, yeah, you're not going to get any resolution on that. That's hogwash. But there was one season 2 episode where they have like this one Marine played by underrated character actor Ian Bailey, and he is going total ape shit. He is like DC sniper in the shit out of New York. He is setting off more bombs than Dennis Hopper in Speed. And it's like at the very end they finally are able to, the best saving grace of this is Gary Sinise's main character, who is a former Marine, and he makes him snap out of it. He's like, "Soldier, you will stand down," and it doesn't merit any of the buildup because they have been like out for blood this whole episode, and they just make him stand down, and it's like
stand down. That's
and he just snaps out of it like, "Oh, sorry," like he just woke up. I'm like, no.
Oh, my bad, guys.
How you do it?
I'm sorry.
Don't. I'm not saying it even had to be a bloodbath. You could have even wounded him, and that'd be okay. But don't just have it be such a simple solution after so much agony and pain.
All that build up, yeah.
So many motherfuckers getting blown to Kingdom Come, and this is the payoff?
Stop. Don't do that. Oh, okay.
So yeah, the payoff is terrible on all of these episodes. Well, not all, but most of them. A good chunk. Season 3 is also kind of a lot of filler, but the saving grace is Gary Sinise is basically a mix of Jack Bauer, injured, and he has the likability of Gibbs, Mark Harmon on NCIS. He has that. I'm a tough guy, but I'm a person, And
bit of a sourpuss.
He's a sourpuss because that's Sinise's foot talking, and much like Walker Texas Ranger and CSI, it does pretty much become a Spot the Republican Actor of the Week. Because then he gets CeeLo Ward and a bunch of other people on here. And I mean, Sinise has always kind of been I'm not going to say discount. He's always been kind of a Bruce Willis type guy, just everyday kind of likable guy. So it's rewarding, and at the same time, it kind of rests on its shoulders a little too safely at times. There's a lot of other instantly likable people on here, and they have nothing to do. For a while, it seemed like I have nothing against the character Don, played by Eddie Cahill, who had already been on shows like Friends and every other, WB, CW show. He is just a ladies' man. He is out for pussy every other season on this damn show.
That's it. That's all. New York, baby.
Yeah, in New York. And at one point, he falls in love with Emmanuelle Vagier, the original Painkiller Jane, who was later on Lost Girl and a bunch of other shows. And instantly, you're not surprised when she gets killed and he has to avenge her. And this show is also just the worst in terms of its gunfights. Like people are cocking their guns as soon as, when they're already loaded and, just to be cool and all. And I will say there was one episode that was particularly called Snow Day. It was like a season 3 finale, and everyone was like, "Oh, you took the entire plot of Die Hard," and I wasn't all that impressed by it, even though everybody is literally going all super cop in this. All the doctors are in the field on this one, and it takes forever for Hill Harper as Sheldon to do anything on here. Like by season 3, he finally gets a voice, season 1, his acting's kind of shaky, and I don't mean that bad. Hill Harper had already proven himself, and I sound like I'm tearing this a new one. I really like this one the most out of all of them, even though the original is kind of the classic and Miami's kind of the more popular one. I find New York kind of more entertaining in some degrees, even though it does a lot of stuff wrong. So
I feel like people like it for what it is. Like it does a lot of things wrong, but it also entertains. Like,
I knew people on forums who only watched it just because it was set in New York. They just found that appeal because previously only NYPD Blue and Law and Order were doing that. So even though it's not really filmed there all the time, I don't think it has an unusual way of unfolding its personal drama. I think that's why everyone just keeps coming back to it. Carmen Giovinazzo as Danny, who later falls in love with Lindsay, played by Anna Belknap. 2 other underrated actors, that guy, that gal, people. They're probably a very underrated couple on here. They're a romance on the whole CSI franchise that actually works, in my opinion. Just because they instantly click. You instantly see them making moves at each other, and it's no surprise when they're married. And to make things more interesting, they're terrorized by a still drugged up Edward Furlong. Yes, that's right. Young John Connor from Terminator 2. Terrorizes Lindsay and her baby. And it's probably the only good part about season 6. I have so many issues with that damn season. Season 6 should have been a great season, and it just doesn't click. They expose a lot of few secrets. It's also Stella, Melina, kind of Caradotti's final season. They pretty much nuked the fridge, Crystal Skull, Indiana Jones style on this one. They even had Skeet Ulrich as a recurring serial killer, so kind of a callback to Scream for you. It didn't work for me at all. It just, especially after season 5, they had this whole hostage scenario where Gary Sinise's Mac gets kidnapped by Casey Jones himself, Elias Koteas, as a deranged bank robber, only to find out that this guy isn't a hostage being used against his will. He is the main orchestrator of it all, and he just made Mac take the bait. To be continued, and to have a total FU, conclusion as your season 6 premiere, where Stella's hanging off the edge of a cliff, and everybody else is just, and all these just, this show is always, all these shows have always been so Hollywood, but boy, howdy, does it take chances it doesn't need to even take. It just digs more holes than it needs to. And so it starts off slow. It trips and falls one too many, even in the good seasons. And then it finishes with a bang. It pretty much becomes the Remember 9/11 show.
I mean, I was honestly, when the show was done, I wasn't like, I was like, whatever, like, because I watched it for what it was, quick little entertainment, and that's about it. Like, there were some mistakes that I just kind of, it was a good show, but I took it for what it was.
Yeah, it's not NYPD Blue, and although there is one episode where they almost seem to be going near that level, where they have always excellent Joe Morton guest star as a internal affairs guy investigating Danny after he accidentally shoots another fellow officer in a blind gunfight. And it's kind of cool seeing, right? And it's cool seeing him and Mac kind of have a measuring contest, saying, "I will protect my officer. He's a good cop." Years before Trayvon Martin and all these other just innocent bystanders getting capped. Just very disgusting shit that was happening back then before it became well known over cell phones.
Yeah, technology, man.
Yeah. Rob, you got anything to add to this? I don't know if you've watched this as much.
No, not really. That's why I'm still the quietest.
No, that's fine. There were some cool recurring guest stars, like Kelly Hu was on here briefly, And very much like some of the other brief recurring people on the original Las Vegas show, they just fade in and fade out. They don't know what to do with them, so they exit stage right.
Right.
I will say
that's the key, though. Exit stage right.
I will say though, out of all the eye candy, holy fucking shit, Melina Karadades, I know you're 50-something years old. Can I have your number? My God. They know how to light her in every single scene. And even though they make note of her Greek background and how she's, homies with Gary, she's not a girlfriend. She's just a best friend who's been there with him, was friends with him and his deceased wife. I'm making this sound like this is the self-pity show. It really isn't. This is not the, no, it's not that. It's more to it than that. But I have to say, even though I was kind of annoyed that her character left, it was the best thing because they did nothing with her character. Her character is like the smartest detective ever. And I don't mean to, I'm going to reword this. Melina's a good actress. She's also good eye candy. And her character is supposedly very smart. And yet her character does so many fucking stupid things on this show. Like, get into, like, she's dating some questionable artiste guy, played by Ed Quinn of Eureka fame. And is like, he's just such a shady guy. It's like the most predictable Las Vegas episode where he's like, the writing's on the wall,
Yeah.
Of course this guy's a scumbag. And then the only thing they do interesting with that stupid subplot is they find him dead in his apartment, and they make her look like a suspect because she was dating him. It's like, hey, you kind of knew he was bad. Did you kill him and cover it up? And that was the only interesting thing that came out of that. So my issue is she becomes a plot device, and she's the female lead on this show. You don't need that. I mean,
their ideas. They like I said, it's the third child.
They were overwhelmed with the other two fucking shows. They should have just let Caruso dick around and just focused on the original show and this show. And
yeah, that's it.
I will say my intro to this was watching the disastrous Lost Girls crossover. And for our listeners out there, for anyone who didn't fucking watch this, this is basically one where they started in Miami, and it doesn't blend at all, despite Fishburne being from the same Abel Ferreira King of New York camp as Caruso, where he arrives in Miami to find a severed leg that belongs to a girl who disappeared in Las Vegas a week before. They started out on CSI Miami season 8, and then they continue it in more detail in New York on season 6, and this was my first intro to New York. Like, I'd never seen Sinise, so I thought it was kind of cool seeing Lawrence Fishburne ride a giant ass motorcycle, even though if you rewatch it, it's clearly a stunt double. Too many cheeseburgers, sorry. And then they concluded finally on CSI, and it was kind of cool because, I mean, one of the main kidnappers on the New York portion of it all on this 3-part thing, they even called it for the box set, the CSI trilogy, was the kidnapper was played by Michael Massey of The Crow and 24 fame. But it did not. It started off kind of whatever, and it just kind of ended on a meh. I would rewatch it, but it's not as bad as most CSI New York episodes where they start good and they fizzle out not too well. And I'm not saying that because they're predictable or anything. I'm just saying it's like they just try to be clever. And I'm not saying it's M. Night Shyamalan on a bad day bad, but it is still just like, if I didn't love everything else, I would never watch the show again, And
But it's like when you try too hard in your storytelling, like that's the thing, they're trying too hard. They got so many other things going on. They're like, all right, we got to make a good story. And they're poisoning the fruit.
Yeah. I will say, though, there is a wonderful crossover.
Your phone's died.
Right, your friend's dead. Get over it. Robert Joy as the Dr. Sid is a welcome contribution because he's just naturally charming and cool that way. He even said in that guy who was in That Thing documentary that he improvised the whole separate his glasses as he puts them on thing, and they asked him to keep it in. They liked it so much, they liked him, so they kept him on. Unlike all the other med techs who don't last too long in this damn show. I will say Hill Harper is a good contribution to this show, but as a result of spending such little time on him the first 2 seasons, and only really developing him on weaker moments of season 3, that when they start spending more time on him, it's just pretty much they give him stuff that they don't want anyone else to deal with. And I'm like, that's kind of shitty. Eddie Cahill's Don, when he's not trying to find someone to presumably sleep with off screen and make shit-eating grins at, he pretty much is just always just part of Mac's SWAT team arresting squad, and that got old for me after a while. I was like, I buy him as a bad do. Yeah, because I mean, they did it with the chief on Las Vegas, but he had other things to do. I mean, he also got involved in a officer on officer shooting, and he in the Ted Danson years, the Brass has the heartbreaking decision of finding out that his daughter, who he's estranged from, is a serial killer.
I remember that.
That is some heavy shit right there. And then they have his wife played by a wonderful actress, and the actress playing his daughter was also frightening and very good at playing. Because I mean, they also do another kidnap the team member episode of the week to tie it all in, and it was good. It was a heartbreak, and I will say the final seasons of the Ted Danson years benefit from having Mac from New York actually cross over. Let me just say, Mac comes to Las Vegas to look for his new girlfriend, and his whole "where is she" is actually way more believable. It's not poor man's Jack Bauer or Dark Knight. He is just like, well, you better tell me where is she? And the way I'm saying that, I should not quit my day job. I sound like I am just doing a bad impression, or like that's how it is. No, it really is beneficial. And yeah, the final seasons are really good. And Celia Ward, that was good casting there. That she needed something else to do besides be remembered for The Fugitive and other soap shows. This was good. She actually gets to be real tough, so it was no surprise when I saw her later briefly on the first season of FBI, and I was like, yeah, okay. So
I enjoyed her on that. I was a little upset that she left for the chick that played on Law and Order.
I was too, but I mean, Elena de la Garza. Oh my God. Can I have your number?
Give him your number.
Yeah, I age does not make a difference here. No, I actually must confess, I do actually kind of like FBI, how they're kind of becoming the next part of CSI New York Chapter 2, but not.
Yeah, I enjoy it. Most Wanted too. Like, I'm digging that.
Yeah, season 2 was even a bigger step up, and I actually had to watch because FBI was doing a spinoff called Most Wanted. I went back and I saw the season 1 episode where they're first introduced, and that really helped me. That is like, that laid out so much. It's like, okay, so Julian McMahon's character,
I just hope they don't get killed like Criminal Mind Red Zone, Forrest Whitaker. I enjoyed that, but that got no play.
Well, it's definitely better than Criminal Minds Beyond Borders, which also had Gary Sinise still in CSI New York mode, and it was awful. I saw so many people.
That's why they kept the Asian fellow. I can't remember his name right now.
Yeah, and that's why they kept the Asian guy, and then they brought the Law and Order chick who was also there over there, and so it's like, yeah, okay, it all runs together. You're on all the #1 crime shows. We're gonna take all those actors and just borrow them.
100%.
But I remember there was a lot of people who saw Beyond Borders and they're like, I don't buy any of this. They are so not in Mexico right now. Yeah, no. And this show, when you get that wrong and Commando is more realistic, then something's up. And Commando's not even in Mexico; it's in Valverde, which doesn't exist. Yeah, I think Most Wanted is definitely gonna do where Criminal Minds spinoffs went wrong, and the main FBI is gonna continue the whole CSI New York by doing what it never had the nerve to do, by investigating real life hacking and, I mean,
real crimes,
real for Rizzle, and doing. I mean, they talked about even crossing over Olivia Vincent from SVU on or even Hank on Chicago PD to make a cameo here and there. Like,
that I like Chicago PD.
Yeah, do it. But I like how CBS has made that part of its crime family, yet it still feels like it should be an NBC show because, it rarely does anyone kill anyone on that. And Julian McMahon's character, I'm like the only person who remembers him when he was on Profiler. He's pretty much a mix of everybody else is kind of the CSI tech geeks, but only if they had more to do. And he's like a main mixture of Stabler and Gorin on SVU and No Intent, respectively. Maybe Thomas Gibson on Criminal Minds, but I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching. Yeah, so CSI New York is kind of the end of where CSI gets all adventuresome. I know a lot of people who would watch it just because it had more action, although I thought that's what the whole purpose of Miami was, but I guess I'm wrong. The original CSI has plenty of action to begin with, so I don't know where everyone's coming from on this whole damn family tree. It ends early, and the main CSI show is still on, and it spawns CSI Cyber.
I'm a behavioral scientist. Fancy for a human lie detector. I work crimes that start in the mind, live online. I'm a cyber cop.
It takes a hacker to catch a hacker.
Shut it down.
Let me off! That's what I'm talking about.
You work dark alleys. I work the dark net.
CSI Cyber premieres March 4th.
Now, I have not seen this. You have?
Don't mean to cut you off. I've seen Cyber. I think my last AirPod's gonna die. So, but Cyber, I enjoyed Cyber. I felt like it got a short run. It had James Van Der Beek in it, I believe.
Yes.
And
Bow Wow.
Bow Wow. Bow Wow. I could have did without, but I enjoyed James Van Der Beek. I like the concept of, we're gonna go get hackers or kitty porn people. Like, it was cool. The director, I don't got her name right now, but I wasn't really digging her. I felt like they could have did something better.
Patricia, fresh after winning awards for Boyhood. I have only seen the episode of the original CSI where she's introduced, and I thought that was a cool episode because it's just she's having to flat out, again, go all Criminal Minds, just play a mind game.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even do a Vincent D'Onofrio on Criminal Intent. Just be like, you don't want to kill me. Keep me alive.
I felt like they could have kept going with it. I would have watched it, but they shelved it, I guess. So
I've never seen any of it. I heard it wasn't as bad as everyone made it out to be.
Check it out. It's pretty good.
I will take it up on your recommendation. I will get off my ass and finally buy it on Amazon Prime. It's kind of a shame that it pretty much died instantly. A lot of people thought it was dead. Then they brought it back for another season. Then they killed it off again anyway, despite having Tan Denson's Russell from the final years of the original CSI merge over there to boost up the ratings. And that's just it. It seems like everyone compares this to the bastard child of the Law & Order franchise. Yes, I'm looking at you, Law & Order Los Angeles. Yeah. The franchise that it's pretty much the bastard child no one wants to talk to, and that's a shame because you'd like to think that everyone wants everything to do with every part of the franchises, but it was not to be apparently. I guess you could say everyone was just burned out with so many other cyber hacking movies and shows out.
Yeah.
You already had Person of Interest, so that was stealing its thunder, and that was even on the same damn station. You had Numbers, veteran Peter McNichol over here, and that's pretty much just making everyone remember, the dude from Numbers. So it is. My introduction to this was seeing it parodied I forget what show. It was either the Will Wheaton Project or I'm going that far back. No one's gonna remember that damn show. Or it might have been The Soup, and they were just showing some awfully acted moments of it. James Vanderbeek overdoing it, Bow Wow being all hip. He's acting like Ice-T on SVU, and I'm like, nah, man, nah, you ain't there. Ice-T is fucking cool. What are you? Besides
a liar.
Oh, is that what he is? He's making up
clout
shit
chasing.
about people.
Clout chasing.
Full of lies.
But so I unfortunately have to go to bed. I have to get up pretty early to go to work.
You pretty much summed up all the points. Thank you all for joining us, and so
thanks for having me.
Real fast. Let's rank the all 4 shows of CSI real fast. Rob, you go first.
Definitely. Well, are we doing it from best to worst?
Best to worst. Yeah.
I mean, my Las Vegas is definitely number 1 for me.
I think it was.
Begrudgingly, Miami, because it's a lot to take in, but it is entertaining in itself. New York, because I watched New York well, I can't say I watched New York the least, because in comparison to Cyber, which I didn't watch at all, but I would say that the New York is number 3 and Cyber number 4, with no vote at all, because I have no idea how it is.
Nice. That's all good. Okay, so you're 2/3, I'm 3/4, and I'm pretty much, well, I'm gonna go the original show, then I'm gonna go New York, and then I'm gonna go Miami. The original just has the cast, the humor, and the crimes mostly working at overtime at 80%, even when there's the inevitable cast changes. Even when they do that whole fake out where, oh, Willis is leaving, oh, guess what, she came back, oh, Grissom is left, oh, guess what, he's coming back for the final 2-hour movie, to wrap things up. It overall flows better because Stokes, Willows, and even the other lab techs are just fucking awesome, including Stokes, the captain. When he's on screen, even when Warwick was on in his early years, and what a shame how they had to write him off. That they were dying. Yeah. They were great people, and I would say Sarah's overall, she's the Abby, but not weird. She is the most recognizable face out of this damn thing, if it's not Al. It just had so many cast and plot twists and style, even before Elizabeth Shue's Julie comes on. And Miami's just it's kind of just more psychological and action, but because it's for the adrenaline in us, I gotta give more points to New York for mixing the escapism with the drama, even though the plot twists suck on New York. So, but New York finishes off pretty well. You can still find it on Amazon Prime, and CeeLo Ward definitely made a difference in, as well as the 9/11 focus. That pretty much is why that show is remembered and why it used to replay on TNT quite a lot. And so now I'll hand it off to you, Ricardo.
I go from best to worst. I'm gonna go the original CSI, because I love originals, and I do think the whole setup they had going on there just like sparked everything off. For number 2, I'm gonna definitely go Miami. Horatio Caine, man. Like I said before, that's my guy. Simple and plain. 3, I'm gonna go a little different. I'm gonna go CSI Cyber, because I actually enjoyed the crime aspect of it. Like they were doing some real some real stuff, hackers, bank fraud, like stuff that might be mundane and nothing really crazy, but you could see how many people are really being hurt on the back end of like a sex trafficking ring.
To be fair, I noticed that with all the hacking shows, or movies for that matter, like Enemy of the State and Swordfish and Die Hard 4, is like, if you explain it to someone, they already are getting bored, you see it in their eyes. It's all a visual thing,
100%.
Same thing with FBI shows, there's a difference between your enjoyment of that versus something goofy like Scorpion, it's just all in what they're showing you, and it's how it's scripted. So no, that's cool. It's cool to have it be different. So sorry, Sinise, you're last.
Yeah, no, Sinise, he gets that. Lieutenant Dan, I love him, but
the storyline.
I'm also a little more biased on the geeky tech side of things. I'm a tech guy, so for me,
I
agree. We're gonna see some real hacker on hacker stuff. I like it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like, other than a few recurring assassins, New York totally fudged itself. It did not have the appealing geeky side of the original CSI or even NCIS for that matter. They were too heavy on, let's make New York proud. It's like, what about the rest of us?
Right.
Not to sound like a prick, but
no, you're 100% right. That's like I used to always tell Rob, why did New York always get destroyed and disasters? Los Angeles, New York, probably Vegas, but it's like always getting hurt.
Yeah, you're right.
Because New York is the most visually appealing. It has the most iconic skylines, so it's more visually appealing to watch it get fucked up than Los Angeles, which doesn't have. I mean, it has skyscrapers, but who even knows
It's no surprise if you see a violent bunch of gangs. I mean, that's pretty much what the new SWAT show update is basically doing. Is like, let's have Sean Ryan go back to Nash Bridgesville, and then let's have him have CSI New York drama, and then let's have him mix it with Miami SWAT team antics, and then
I started that. I just fell off. Like, I tried to stick. It picks up. I tried to stick with my man from Criminal Minds,
Shamar Moore.
And then I fell off.
Yeah, season 2's kind of whatever. Lot to love, a lot to meh. It's not as powerful as SEAL Team, in my opinion.
Oh, I love me some SEAL Team.
Yeah, SEAL Team, even when it has an episode that's painful to watch, I just feel like crying like a bitch. I'm like, oh, damn it.
David Borealis. I'm saying that right.
And Jessica Parr, you guys are awesome. But yeah, no. Season 3, you're gonna love all the undercover stuff, dude. SWAT has stepped it the hell up. They have drones this season. That they're doing everything CSI New York should have done.
Right.
Or Miami, for that matter, in some respects. CSI is still on as far as we are concerned. It's just under a different property. And it's just not as fascinating as when it first came on, but we're still watching it because who doesn't want to see just some crazy mayhem? And with that note, thank you all. The duo themselves, Ricardo and Rob, thank you so much for kicking ass on this episode. I think we're going to have a lot of crime junkies who are going to dig this.
No problem.
Yep, I'm always around to talk crime shows.
Yeah, I think all of us just kind of relate to it, and it is kind of sucky how lately we've been just encountering a lot of these, let's make the cops and lawyers sexy. Let's just comment on the Me Too stuff. And it's like, no, let's go further. Let's show a side of police work that we haven't seen. Like, Bosch has been doing a good job of it. There's no telling what the police procedural formula is going to show next. I know Nash Bridges is coming back to USA Network, so that'll be interesting. Yeah, as a limited series, Don Johnson announced it, and
nice.
I'm looking forward to that. I know Law and Order has some new installment, but truth be told, they can just have SVU, and I think everyone will be happy.
Right.
And we got the FBI.
I don't know if you checked out Deputy. It's pretty good.
Yeah, and how annoying how everybody's like, oh, David Ayer, he's an overrated hack. I'm like, no, he is not. He has
That's good.
He has done script doctoring duties on so many movies, including a Seagal film and U-571. He made Fast and Furious more memorable.
No, he made End of Watch. Your argument is invalid.
There you go. End of Watch.
Mega movie.
I used to quote Street Kings quite a lot.
Street Kings, such a good movie.
Better yet, I'll do you
Harry.
one. I'll do you one better.
Harry, I thought you were dead.
Yeah, there you go. There should have been a good sequel to that, but there wasn't. No, I'll do you one better. He did End of Watch, Sabotage, Training Day, the movie version of SWAT.
Nice.
And Harsh Times, featuring Christian Bale at his most Patrick Bateman shaftest. Go fuck yourself. Your argument is a good movie. Yeah, Harsh Times is awesome. Now, David Ayer is awesome because he teamed up with the creator of the Training Day show, which I also kind of recommend because that was by the CSI guys. And yeah, this guy was also a former LA deputy officer. So it's really cool how they're bringing a lot of grittiness as well as a lot of other familiar faces from Ayer's work. And they got a bunch of other people who have worked on a bunch of freeform shows as well as Designated Survivors. So they know what makes people want to tune in. They have something happen every episode. It is never the same cause. There's one episode where they had to close down an entire famous LA freeway. I'm like, oh baby, that now you know this guy's going to be in a world of hurt because he's not only doing impossible crime saving duties, but he wants to be forced out by his entire sheriff under deputies.
Yeah. No,
so
it's a good show.
It's very much like Longmire in that respect. It's like, okay, so this is really cool that yeah. Oh yeah. We'll definitely dedicate an episode to that. Yellowstone and Justified, just old school cowboys revised for today's generation. Thank you ever so much for
thank you
roasting this all in a nutshell, bringing up lesser talked about points and why this made an impact and still kind of does in a way.
No problem.
And where can we find you, Rob?
As always, you can find me at cinemajunkie.wordpress.com. You can also find my writings and stuff at Ultimate Action Movie Club as well as actionfilm.com.
You did a banged up job on the Donnie Yen movie, let me tell you.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
Enter the Fat Dragon is now playing as of this episode recording, so I am ashamed I've never seen any of those. Ricardo,
what's up?
Where are you up to?
I'm just a regular average Joe, so you could just find me at Instagram.
Are you not in oh man, so you're not in a B movie or Star Trek shit posting group? Damn.
I'm definitely in a few A-list movies that my boy Robb made back in the day, but don't tell nobody.
Yeah. Back in the day,
I'm gonna have to see these movies.
We made some blockbuster hits back in the day.
I just choose to live the life of an average Joe.
Oh, okay, gotcha. You were too good for an ego. That's good. No, we like that. Yeah. Rob was making CSI before it was cool.
100%.
Because I mean,
Absolutely.
honestly, I did all of film school on a damn Sony camcorder because it was such a bitch to have to check out any equipment. It was like,
nice.
I need actors and I need a script and I need sound. I don't need anything else.
That's it.
That's right.
And a minimal budget.
And every time there was always someone like, I think you should have less hitman or less action. And it's like, you know what? You hate action movies to begin with, so your argument is invalid.
Right.
You guys hate Pulp Fiction and Star Wars. Your argument is invalid.
I don't even want to hear it.
Yeah, I had a shitty film school known as UTA. So, fortunately, CSI broke all the rules. You can tell these guys definitely ripped their film professors a new one. You know what you don't want us to do with flashbacks and state the obvious before we reveal it? We're going to do that.
Right.
So, thank you all once again for reviewing one of the most groundbreaking and always rule-breaking franchises of all time. And we will be back with more triple, quadruple mayhem.
Absolutely.
Good night.
Till then, stay thirsty, our friends.
Have a good night, boss.
The Jacked Up Review Show can also be followed on Facebook on both the page and the group. Feel free to chat, leave questions, make requests for future episodes. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Thank you so much for your various support, and we'll continue to entertain the hell out of you. Till then, take care.